So I was quite conflicted on how I should talk about Black Ops 4 because I did want to cover it on my channel in some way. However, my main interest lies in zombies, so that's what I'll be focusing on today. And since I'm only really going to be going in depth with zombies, I don't think it's fair to give the game a rating in the end, so I'll just share some straight up thoughts. But I will briefly touch upon the other two game modes quickly. First off, multiplayer. I think it's okay. Just okay. It's not really my thing, and at its core it is still the same COD formula. Although it does seem painfully obvious that this version of the mode has been catered towards esports. But I'll give it credit where it has definitely made some innovations such as manual healing. I mean, it's a big innovation at least for COD, so I'll give some credit where credit is due. But overall, the mode is just not my cup of tea. The new Battle Royale mode, Blackout, however, is certainly better than I was expecting it to be. Now, I'm not really a fan of Battle Royale games, but I can't deny that utilising the familiar Call of Duty mechanics and control system in a well-designed map that takes advantage of its history by compiling many locations from previous Treyarch games, it creates a surprisingly fun experience. Now, of course, it's not exempt from the more frustrating aspects that occur with the design of any Battle Royale game, and I would seriously recommend you play this with friends, as it really does make the game mode that much more fun and enjoyable. But anyway, on to zombies. Now, Black Ops 4's zombie mode is by far the most ambitious, customizable, replayable, yet risky iteration of zombies Treyarch have ever made. Changing core mechanics in big ways and introducing a whole new storyline alongside the well-established Ether story, this zombies mode sets out to do a lot, but for the most part achieves it, albeit with one of the messiest launches I have ever seen for a AAA game. Now, I'm halfway through my second Prestige and have beaten each of the 3 main Easter egg quests, excluding Classified, so I feel like I'm in a good position to judge this mode. The way I'll talk about this is by touching upon the new mechanics and then taking you through each map one by one. So the system that has changed the most is perks. Instead of several set perks scattered around the map, Black Ops 4 Zombies now has 4 static perk machines or god statues for the news story, and allows you to choose which perk you will receive from which machine from a selection of 14 perks. And to shake it up a bit more, Treyarch have removed 3 perks that are considered almost essentials in previous zombie games. These being Juggernog, Double Tap and Speed Cola. Now, in order to compensate, Treyarch have made the base health slightly higher to act as a sort of semi-jug. And weapons can now be pack-punched 4 extra times, with each one increasing the damage by 25% to compensate for Double Tap. However, it doesn't feel like Speed Cola has been properly compensated for. While certain weapons have fast mag attachments, this only applies to certain guns, and I wish they would find a way to remedy this. As for the current perk selection, there is a wide variety to choose from here. Already existing perks grant new abilities to make them more worthwhile, and new perks bring some new strategies to the table. Some of my favourites include Dying Wish and Time Slip. And there is some tactic to how you choose your perks, since whatever perk you set in your modifier slot will either buff the perk or have it grant extra abilities. And it's great that you can alter your perk setup to suit your style of play. Now, not all of these perks are useful. Some of them are good but a bit situational, and a couple are just plain useless. But I will say that they don't feel like a necessity, they feel like what they should be, perks, a small help here and there, and I personally love that. Because of this, it also makes attachments more relevant and encourages you to level up your weapons a lot more. And might I say, the gun and weapon selection in Black Ops 4 is great. There's a good mix of new versions of existing guns, and new weapons, but in a classic style, like the Escargot, the Zweithandler, the Hitchcock, and it's just great. All the guns feel great to use, and they're well balanced with some great ones and some bad ones. And weapon kits now feel more relevant, as mentioned before, not only due to the new perk system, but attachments now actually having zombie specific abilities. On top of this, guns also have operator mods which can drastically change how the gun works, and it's all optional again to suit your playstyle. Gobblegums have now been replaced by the elixir system, and at launch I loved this system. It was perfectly balanced. The elixirs are assigned to each button on the D-pad, meaning you could activate any one whenever you need it, yet you could only have one active at a time. The classics were super useful for what they were, and the rare ones were helpful but not essential, as well as no stupidly overpowered ones, thank God. Now, unfortunately, post-launch, the cooldown rate on classic elixirs has been increased to 20 minutes, which is way too long in my opinion, and it kind of feels like we're being forced into leaning towards spending money for rare ones. And if they found a way to balance this out more, it would be perfect again. It's a shame because the microtransactions are way too expensive for what you get, and plasma earning rates are way too low, and it just feels like typical Activision bullshit. Aside from that, some of the other great features like the specialist weapons are fantastic. With maybe the exception of the Hellfire, they are all great fun to use and are upgradable in each game, meaning the more you use it, the more powerful it gets and more abilities it gains, and each one provides a fun and unique way to play. The ability to also choose your starting weapon and grenade is also a nice touch and adds to the already great customizability. Speaking of customizability, Treyarch have now introduced custom mutations that allows you to change the rules and mechanics of the game to whatever you like. You can control what guns you get, what enemies spawn, how they behave, how strong they are, what doors open, what systems are available, how many points and health you have. It's just insane. Now, you can't level up or unlock things in this mode, which is fair enough, but it's a great way to learn a new map. As well as for those people who aren't bothered about leveling up, it's perfect for just jumping in a game and having fun with whatever settings you like, and it's a great addition. Treyarch has also introduced a brand new game mode called Zombie Rush. This plays in a bit more of an arcade-like fashion where it's all about points, moving you around the map to hold down certain areas, competing with your friends to earn the most points. It's a fun and welcome addition and provides a newer pace to zombies that gives us more hope of seeing more modes in the future. On top of this, it's all the small gameplay tweaks that are also brilliant. The fact that max ammos now refill the clip as well as the magazine, Carpenters being more useful by repairing shields, and being able to gift unwanted mystery box weapons to a teammates are all nice little additions that just add a cherry on top. But now, let's talk about each map individually, and I must say, each of these 4 maps are solid experiences and some of the best content Treyarch has produced. I mean, even the fact that there is 4 maps on launch is crazy enough, so without further ado, let's get on with it. You know, I love those times when I'm pleasantly surprised, and experiencing 9 for the first time was certainly one of those times, being so much better than I expected it to be. 9 boasts a fantastic setting and atmosphere from the get-go, with the loud, bombastic roar of the crowds and the huge scale of the Colosseum setting. It really makes for an amazing vibe. The map is also complemented by a very simple layout based around this central arena, 4 god towers each with their own unique theming and an underground section. It's basic, has a great flow to it with plenty of open areas, making for a good casual map for those who just want to simply get into a game and go, while providing some challenge with a good range of enemy types. Pack-a-Punch is really simple and the map provides plenty of side content with the shield upgrade, each player's personal challenges and the Death of Orion quest. Speaking of which, this wonder weapon is amazing. When Pack-a-Punched into the Circuit's Kiss, this becomes one of the best wonder weapons in Zombies history, and it's also quite an amusing one to use. The Easter egg in this map is a mixed bag for me. While a lot of the experience doing this Easter egg was tainted by blue screens and bugs, and trust me, I'll get to those later, outside of that, it feels like this quest has a really slow start to it, forcing you to wait several rounds before you can really begin the first god trial, and even then, the RA step can also be quite annoying. But after that, it really picks up, and man, that boss fight is so cool. Granted, it's not too challenging, but not too lenient either, and the whole scale of it is just awesome. So yeah, I don't know what much else I can say. 9 is a fantastic map, and I feel it will be a fan favourite for years to come. And when we eventually come to know more about this story of the new crew, I think we'll be able to look back and appreciate it even more. Voyage of Despair is a map that I grew to love over time. For some reason that I really can't pin down, when the game first launched, I really wasn't feeling this map. But now, after completing the Easter egg and going for high rounds, I have enjoyed it so much more. Now, there's no denying, this is the hardest map in Black Ops 4. It's very close quarters, and partner that with the slightly more aggressive AI, and the difficulty soon becomes apparent. Not to mention, the layout for this map is quite hard to get your head around. It's the biggest zombies map ever in terms of play space, like this covers almost the whole Titanic. And the layout is very sprawling and will take a few games for people to understand and get used to. And all these elements do create a very difficult experience, but it's that I enjoy. It's the challenge that keeps you engaged, and once you've got used to the close quarters and the layout, it is again a very solid map. The setting of the Titanic is of course great and has a much more subtle and mysterious vibe when compared to 9, and it once again keeps the basics very simple. Pack-a-Punch is nice and easy, and opening it takes you across the whole map so that you can get used to it more. There's also a good amount of side quests to do, upgrading the Bowie knife, the free fast travel quest, the complicated shield upgrade, and the Kraken side quest, rewarding you with the wonder weapon for this map, the Kraken, and this is a pretty solid wonder weapon. It's no Circuit's Kiss, but it's still fun to use and sort of plays like the sweeper for Mob of the Dead. And when you get an elemental upgrade on this, it really holds its own, and man, I just love the design of this thing. It's one of those things that only Treyarch can do. Now, the Easter egg on this map surprised me in that it was quite simple and easy to do once you get it down, aside from the boss fight, that is. It has a good mix with some puzzle elements like the clocks and the planet step, and some straight up zombie killing with the 4 trials. And damn that boss fight, this is definitely one of the hardest and most intense boss fights Treyarch has ever made. While the first few phases aren't that bad, the final phase is mental and will demolish you if you are not paying attention. And while this fight does have some insta-kill bullshit which I do not like, it is one of the few boss fights that really does lower your confidence. Now, my biggest issue with Voyage is the story. From what I gather, this is the first time our new Chaos crew encounter the zombies, yet we don't get much story progression here. This is also a slight problem with 9 as well, but at least that map gave us some backstory to the cult through ciphers and audio, yet Voyage offers us nothing. The ending cutscene just has us escape the Titanic, not really utilising the huge emotional investment the situation of the Titanic provides. I just feel like we learn nothing about these characters and are given no reason to care or to be invested in their situation. Now obviously this is just the beginning of the Chaos story, and there is still plenty of development for the future, as well as the rest of the comic series giving us more backstory. And I think the historical and mythological basis for the Chaos story will provide some great potential for future maps and concepts. I mean, I really do like these characters, especially Shaw, and I think that this story does have great potential, so I guess we'll have to wait and see. I cannot tell you how excited I was for Blood of the Dead. With Mob of the Dead being my favourite map of all time, my expectations were huge. And when I finally played it, I was definitely surprised in a strange way, mainly because Blood was not quite what I expected it to be. Blood of the Dead is of course a remake of Mob of the Dead, and it carries on some of the best aspects that made the original so good. The sound design and atmosphere are still amazing, as well as the map layout. It's still the same layout as Mob, but expanded upon, giving us access to the west side of the island where the game starts you, and it still has the great feeling of exploring the real Alcatraz. As well as this, there's plenty of side content to keep you engaged. Now, I will say, while it does feel like Mob, it doesn't play like Mob. The afterlife mechanic and building the plane are gone, creating a completely different pace of gameplay, almost making it feel like an entirely different map. But despite this difference, it's still absolutely fantastic. And while it may be odd at first, you have to understand this isn't meant to be a remaster of Mob, it's meant to be a reimagining of it. Taking place in the same location with similar concepts, but with different mechanics and a different part of the story to tell. And while I don't quite think it's better than Mob, I certainly feel it's on par with it, but for different reasons as I mentioned. The only things that let Blood down are nerfing the Hell's Retriever, Redeemer, and the Acid Gat. They almost feel completely useless now. However, to compensate, we do get a pretty good brand new wonder weapon in the form of the Magma Gat. And the only other downside I can think to this map is its over-reliance on the shield. This is our replacement for the Afterlife, and you use a key to extract a zombie's soul to charge up the shield for Spirit Blasts, and I feel the map uses this way too much, especially in the Easter egg quest. It wouldn't be so bad if extracting a soul wasn't so tedious and made you so vulnerable. I just feel making soul extracting a lot quicker would maybe resolve this. And this brings me nicely onto the Easter egg, and I know some people seem to really hate this EE, but personally, I love it. Now, I will admit, I did find the round 17 weights really annoying at first, but now with the Monkey Bomb strategy, it makes it so much more tolerable and enjoyable. The bird steps and the 5 tasks are fun to do, but I do feel these are imbalanced for solo players, especially the Morse code part, so I think maybe some tweaking needs to be done. But damn, the whole final part of this Easter egg is brilliant. The build up and payoff, it's a roller coaster, and it's executed fantastically. Granted, the boss fight itself is really easy, but the epic intensity is still incredible. And man, the story in this map is awesome. Giving a particular focus on the Warden, it answers many questions like the purpose of Mob of the Dead and its greater role in the story, as well as what becomes of those characters, as well as moving our story forward with Primus breaking the cycle, Nikolai taking charge and teases for the future, giving us a sense of a climax beginning for the Aether story, culminating in the most emotional and brilliantly acted ending cutscene in all of COD Zombies. It's a real treat for fans of the story, and the symbolism here is great with the stages of grief and acceptance of death throughout the Easter egg leading to Richtofen's demise. It's just wonderful. Blood of the Dead, while not playing like Mob, still provides one of my favourite Zombies experiences from start to end in both gameplay and story, reinventing my favourite map of all time into my joint favourite of all time, setting up what seems to be an exciting conclusion to the Aether storyline. Man, Classified is just so much fun. If you watched my top 10 zombie maps, you'll know that 5 is my favourite casual map of all time. Classified takes us back to the Black Ops 1 storyline with this remake of 5, and the simple pick up and play aspect, the harder challenge in later rounds, the improvements to the layout and the awesome story behind this map has made it my new favourite casual map of all time. The map has the same layout as 5 with 1 or 2 new areas, enough that it's not overbearing or unnecessary for the type of map that it is, but just enough to keep it fresh and new. The map is certainly easier than 5, but not to a point where it's too easy, and it still maintains a good chunk of the challenge that made the original 5 fun, but it's the way it improves upon aspects of the original 5 that makes me love it so much. The Winter's Howl is so much better and is a much more effective and fun wonder weapon to use. A nice touch is that the teleporters have indicators to let you know which floor you'll be teleporting to. The great addition of a shield, the nice amount of small side Easter eggs is a great touch, and the fan service here for our long-time Zombies fans is brilliant. Finally bringing back the Ultimus crew and made me realise that I have missed these guys so damn much. And the story behind this map is so cool. Acting as both a prequel and sequel to Moon, it ties up several loose ends from the Black Ops 1 story, letting us know what happens to Ultimus after Moon and again setting up the future for the Aether storyline. Now this does bring me onto the elephant in the room, the Easter egg, or lack thereof shall we say. As I'm sure many of you know by now, the ending cutscene is achieved by getting to round 150. Now, I'm not so sure how to feel about this. On the one hand, yeah, it does give high rounders a chance to earn something for once, but I do think round 50 is still a bit too high. Maybe 100 would be fine for those who are not so good at getting to higher rounds. But the main point I'm leading up to here is that in the game's current state, this cutscene is not achievable due to the sheer instability of this game. And this brings me on to the biggest issue, not only facing zombies, but the whole of Black Ops 4 in general. Simply put, while the content of the game is fantastic, it's currently tainted by the fact that the game is just broken as it currently stands. At launch, many Easter egg runs constantly resulted in blue screens and crashes, and this went on for several weeks. Me and my team have had our fair share of issues, with about 5 or so blue screens and several bugs preventing us from progressing, and it just sucks. Like, we had to resort to asking one player to leave our team so that we could try going free man so as not to strain the game so much. But we shouldn't have to do that. We don't want to leave people out just because the game is not capable of supporting 4-man teams. Hell, several people who just play solo are still experiencing to this day several glitches and crashes. It's just not acceptable to have the game released in this state. And what it says to me is that Treyarch clearly had to rush this game out to meet the much sooner release deadline just to compete with Red Dead 2. And yet, even with a 50GB patch on day 1 and several hot fixes and patches later, the issues are still not gone, and it just fucking sucks. Now, at the time of recording this, Treyarch have made a statement saying they will look into it and hopefully fix all of this, so fingers crossed. It's just a shame really, because aside from all this, Black Ops 4 has by far the most enjoyable, fun and memorable zombies experience to date. With so much content on launch, 4 unique and all very good maps, a fun new game mode, a shit ton of customizability, all with the promise of the most post-release support and content they have given to a game. Here's only hoping. Thank you very much for watching this video everybody, like and subscribe if you feel so obliged to, and I'll see you in the next video.